It is important for you as parents, teachers, and adults to understand how films attract the attention and shape the values of the children who view them.
Throughout the history of the incredible motion picture industry, images of the great native peoples of North America have been displayed on cinema and home television screens across the nation. But for all of this exposure, what do we actually know about the culture of our noble Native American cousins?
Animation offers a medium of storytelling and visual entertainment, which can bring pleasure and information to people of all ages everywhere in the world. This is a famous quote from the legendary Walt Disney. Disney is widely recognized as a pioneer, innovator, and the possessor of one of the most fertile imaginations the world has ever known. What do you think of when you hear the name Walt Disney? Right away, a few images come to mind. A castle, a mouse, and maybe even a classic fairy tale. But there are a few distorted images in Disney movies that many of us have long forgotten. It is that of the American Indian. First off, is it even possible for a harmless children's story to cause irreversible damage to an entire people? The short answer is yes. Let's first take a look at Walt Disney's 14th animated series, Peter Pan. We see that racism is a big issue in this movie, mainly when it comes to the Indians. They are portrayed as the barbaric savage, being fairly stupid and are often outsmarted by children. During the campfire scene, the Indians' expressions are goofy and their mannerisms absurd. Essentially, they are just plain silly looking. While the Lost Boys look pretty ordinary, the Indians are also either incredibly fat or terribly skinny. With the exception of the chief and Princess Tiger Lily, many of the Indians have no true personalities, as they lack distinctive facial characteristics, which help the viewer bond. The only Indian that seems at all appealing is Tiger Lily. She looks much more like the white children than the rest of her tribe, with her skin being lighter and her features being more petite. The one scene in the movie that really portrays this racist attitude is the song, "Why is the Red Man Red?" Really listen to the lyrics and watch closely at the Indian characters compared to the Anglo children.
What makes the red man red?
The NAEYC, National Association for the Education of Young Children, found that children between 2 and 5 years of age become aware of race. They also found that children learn stereotypes and attitudes about race from their parents, caretakers, and the world around them. Racism is defined as a belief that race is the primary determinant of human traits and capacities, and that the racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race. At a young age, children are exposed to these movies. These films are often perceived as innocent and wholesome. Can innocent children's movies create stereotypes that are learned in early childhood but continue into adulthood? Here are a few interviews with highly educated graduates. These interviews reinforce that the films they viewed in their childhood, such as Peter Pan and Pocahontas, have made a lasting impression in an inaccurate way.
Now let's fast forward to 1995, the year Disney's 33rd animated series, Pocahontas, was released. 42 years after Peter Pan, Disney's portrayal of Indians has changed dramatically, although not necessarily for the better. Pocahontas is rendered as a beautiful, tan Barbie doll figure, and John Smith as a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, muscular Ken doll. Today, the common stereotype has shifted from the barbaric savage to that of the noble savage. Indians, like Pocahontas, are portrayed as part of a once great but now dying culture, a culture that respected the earth and communicated with trees and animals. Although Disney attempts to instill racial tolerance, interracial friendship, and nonviolent resolutions in Pocahontas, they contribute to the inaccurate Indian stereotype that has evolved from such stories. The historical truth is that Pocahontas was no more than 10 years old and John Smith was at least 22 years old when they met. There was no romantic connection between them, and if there was, he would be considered a child molester by today's standards. Pocahontas has also been unjustly portrayed in history as a supporter of the invading English settlers, thus giving her the reputation amongst American Indians as being a sellout. The reality is that she was a strong supporter of her people and at a young age was put into the position of acting as an interpreter and ambassador between two cultures. The importance of her position must have been recognized by the English since they kidnapped her and held her prisoner for a short time. Pocahontas, dressed in the English fashion, was baptized a Christian and later married John Rolfe. This is the real Pocahontas. Images are memorable, powerful, and hard to shake. Disney's rendering of Native Americans in films has greatly harmed the Native American image, feeding inaccurate stereotypes to young children. Although these films weren't made with intentional malice, young children who view them have no available source to demonstrate that the Native American images they see in films aren't always completely true. So the question remains, will the white man's Indian ever die? Eventually, maybe, but this will only occur when the stories and representations that Native Americans uphold are accepted as the truth worldwide.
The ridge where the west commences, and gaze at the moon till I lose.
We urge you as parents to discuss these images with your children and educate your child in the realities of the American Indian culture, as well as their rich,